Hey everybody, welcome to the channel. Welcome to the station. It is EOS Radio 21. Wow, it's July 23rd, and today we have an interesting show. We
You're
have
on mute there, Bluejays. I
oh,
think you're
okay.
saying hello. Hey, everybody.
Yeah, you
EOS
think I'd
Radio.
learn by now?
No worries. I was on mute too.
Okay.
That was a good start to the show. Number 21.
Number 21, lucky number 21, but not for us.
Yeah. No, yeah. Good to see you, man.
Good to see you
Uh,
too.
we got a good week this week here. We have Ignite conference coming on. I
Yeah,
think you're probably talking about them when you're muted. Or
yeah,
something.
yeah. Good guess. Yeah, I was talking about those guys.
And we have PARSL.co as well. Dr. Isaac Balbin will be coming on talking about cannabis, the cannabis industry, and how they're going to standardize or put the blockchain to use for a supply chain in the cannabis industry. So that's a good use case to start with. And then
Yeah.
Mr. Thomas Cox, he's in Asia right now. He's 12 hours ahead of us. It's currently 6 p.m. our time, which means it's about 6 a.m. his time
Yeah.
in China. And he claims he may be up. He said that last week
Yeah.
when it's around 7. So about an hour from now, we'll see if he's up around 6:50 or 7 a.m. his time in China.
We'll see. We'll see
Yeah.
how hard Thomas parties, because if he's up, then means he's probably not doing too much late night stuff. And
Or
of
maybe he
course,
stayed up.
it was a family day though out in Asia. So
Right, right. Yeah, it was probably very relaxing. Maybe some Doc Hops, played the 50s dance tunes, 1950s, that is.
right.
Yeah, I think Thomas, or either he went to bed early and got up early for this show, or he stayed up all night long and is just coming on for the show, and his hair will be all askew,
Yeah.
and he'll be like, "Hey guys, I'm doing the family day
Let's talk governance.
governance." Yeah. Well, yeah. So what else is new with you, Blue Jays? What's been happening? We'll see if we can get
Yeah.
June in here with Ignite.
June. Yeah, June with Ignite is coming up. Interesting watching some. We got news coming up too, Kevin. We just keep breaking records on TPS. Like
Yeah.
first off, it was 1,000, and everyone was like, "Damn, this thing's fast." And now we're already up to 3,000. So,
Hard to believe. I know, right?
and of
And it
course,
was like, go ahead.
there's been calls like this thing is gonna break 10,000. A lot more, 50,000, stuff like that. So we don't know how it works, but when you have the side chains adding to the performance, that's where you're going to see the explosion in transactions per second.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, I think Mike Novogratz himself was talking about 50,000 per
Yeah.
second. That's quite the call. And he also, so there was a link I saw about China's, so I think it was him actually. He posted on Twitter about how China's government is now putting up cameras everywhere with facial recognition AI software. So, and also will recognize the gait of people, the walking gait. So, I guess long term, they're hoping to really cut down crime in China by sort of keeping a close eye on everybody, sort of a surveillance state article from the Financial Times. Novogratz, the way he put it on Twitter, he's like, well, we need to get blockchain here quickly to try and. So
We got a use case. We can sell it to
we
them.
got a use case. Yeah, I know. Yeah, he thinks big, that guy, so.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, that was a good call. I mean, with TPS records, I mean, yeah, we all kind of expected there to be some big numbers coming up. Ethereum's at 15 per second. Bitcoin's at 4.
Wait. Did you say 1.5 or
1.5,
wow?
15. Yeah. And then, of course, EOS has already cracked 3,000. So,
That's so 2015, man.
yeah, right?
Yeah.
I mean, look, just imagine what we'll be at next year after. We're talking about 4 million transactions per second. Who knows, right? And actually, speaking of Thomas, too, I saw he hinted about there's going to be some large increase in the transactions per second starting on August 8th,
Right.
8/8. I saw that in the Block Pros channel. He hinted at that. My personal guess, EOS Phoenix, right?
Good guess.
Right. Yeah. It was Serge who talked about Serge from Block One. He's the head of developer relations with Block One. And
Right.
he tweeted about seeing a sort of a test
Or
of
a
EOS
demo.
Phoenix. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Entire.
what does that look like? EOS Finex. So Bitfinex, but yet on EOS. So it would be an exchange on EOS. That
Mhm.
seems to be the app that everybody wants to get out first, is to have exchanges on EOS. Dan himself has talked about bringing out BitShares 3.0 on
Oh yeah.
EOS.
Yep.
So looks like we're going to have some options for exchanges on EOS. There you go.
Have your own wallet, you have your own tokens, you're holding them, and yet you're still able to trade them on chain back and forth. I guess it's kind of like the RAM market, but with peer to peer, right?
Right.
I guess because and the speed will be, of course, it's all on chain, so every half second transactions will be able to go through.
Yeah.
I wonder what that'll look like. I mean, and then we've also heard about. Remember a few weeks ago we talked to George with Ducator.
Yeah.
And they're doing a hybrid exchange where you're basically able to open up payment channels and then do kind of a full speed, almost like the same speed as a centralized exchange, but then settle on chain at the end of all the trading. So long story short is you'd have the benefits of both. You'd own your tokens and you'd get the speed of the regular exchange.
Okay.
We'll see how that works out too. Hey, June.
Hey, June.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Hey, good. Thanks for coming on.
All right.
Guys, this is June Dam. He is with the EOS Ignite conference, which is going to be a virtual conference. Is it this month or next month, June?
Yeah, the exact day is August 14th and 15th. Depends on your time zone. We're trying to do a 24-hour, if we can, marathon conference for EOS token holders, and that's what EOS Ignite is all about. So, but yeah, August 14th and 15th. So.
And you have experience because you actually helped put on the Tulip conference back in June.
Yeah, I was an advisor to that. G did all the work. I was just there to advise things here and there. But I did do a conference. Then the reason why we're doing a virtual conference is, I did one last year in the broad crypto space. So yeah, that's where my experience comes from. I did a virtual conference then, and it was I liked doing that. And I also did a physical conference as well. Earlier this year, so I have some experience, but it's fun. It's fun to educate people, and I'm really excited about the EOS ecosystem. So really excited about just providing a platform for people to learn all about what's going on. So,
well said. Yeah, and I'm curious about the conference that you held before, the virtual conference. That'll be similar to what EOS Ignite will be. Can you describe what that's like, what it looked like, how it was for the viewers?
Sure. It's it's kind of like a lot of the content you guys do, and it's with the platform that we use, you could get up to 4 people in total. So it's not like Zoom where you could get like hundreds of people at a time. And it's kind of cool to watch like the block producer meetings and whatnot by doing that. But this is a little bit more narrow where you could get up to 4. So it's so you could get a panel of 3 others and a moderator. And other than that, you could do presentations, you could screen share. And there's a simple to use platform. We use Crowdcast. And so, the audience could ask questions. You could put up polls. So I like the platform a lot. You can actually even bring in people from the audience onto the screen, which is a cool feature that Crowdcast has. So it was fun to organize that, and I like the platform a lot. And I think one of the reasons virtual conferences are great because not everyone can travel around the world, right? And, so I think it's great because you get to meet people face to face. But when it comes to content, a lot of it people can learn just online, and you could. So I was thinking, for content, being virtual is probably the most efficient way to go about it. So I think probably it'll be a trend, but so that's kind of why I'm focusing more on a virtual conference than physical conferences. So
tell us about the agenda of Ignite. What specifically will you be having on this particular conference?
Yeah, we don't have the program set yet, but it'll be a lot of the same content that you see with, the latest conference in Korea, the community conference. I haven't seen too much of the China one, but essentially, governance, constitution referendum, just arbitration, technology, what's the latest, how maybe some content for developers where just to show them, how to build on EOS, adapts that can just share what they're working on. And then also for kind of user basics for token holders. I mean, this is a conference for token holders. That's our target market. So, a lot of people probably haven't done a whole lot. I mean, if you're very active, if you're enthusiast, yeah, I'm sure you've done everything. You've voted and you're actively following every day. But there's a lot of people that haven't done that yet, even though they are token holders. And just to ease that process for them to have a place, kind of a jam-packed resource to learn about how to do it. What wallet should I use? How do I vote, right? And there's some videos here and there out there, but it's just good to have one place to go to and just learn everything you need to, and then just go ahead and do it and be a lot more engaged afterwards. So that's kind of the idea there. So.
Yeah, and of course we've seen EOS has been growing too. I mean, since the new TPS have been coming out, the TPS records we were just talking about, transactions per second, not TPS reports. So we have a lot of folks who are getting more interested in EOS, and they'll be wanting to learn, right? And there's always going to be some discussion or debate going on, whether it's RAM or governance or whatever the case is. So a conference like this will always be relevant in my mind. I think it's cool we having this on. Can you talk more about your experience in the past? What can folks who are tuning in, what should they pay attention to specifically? Is there a schedule they can follow along with?
We're about to get that out, and it'll always be a work in progress, as we get closer to the event. And every day is a week or a month in the crypto world. So I do think we still will be talking about the Constitution. There are still, I mean, that's the referendum, the Constitution, arbitration. I mean, what people are. Any kind of content surrounding that, because I have a feeling even in mid-August we'll start getting those tools in place, right? The referendum contract, and so I think the discussion is going to heat up about the Constitution. I think so. That's probably going to be a core part of it. So yeah. Before, when I actually kind of started the initial idea, I thought, well, a lot of these, it would be kind of resolved by then. But now I'm thinking, yeah, at least those issues will probably hang around until mid-August, but we'll probably have some tools, maybe the referendum contract, I think, maybe by then. So so yeah, that'll be that'll be great, so that more people can join in on the discussion about what they want to see EOS become. Because that's, I think, the biggest issue. Is it going to be more immutable? Is it going to be more are we going to rely more on the arbitration and governance? And it's a big decision, right? So the more content we have about surrounding that, I think the better. So.
I actually hope Thomas comes on later, because he was talking about the Unconference, which was basically like an open topic where everybody gets into a room, 130 people, and they put sticky notes on what they would like to talk about. So it kind of finds the hot topic of the day, and maybe, I don't know if you had any kind of thing like that for Ignite.
It's still open. I think that's great. That's a great idea. We'll try to kind of find ways to do things virtually that people are doing physically in conferences. And I love the unconference idea. It does decentralize the whole interaction. So we'll see exactly how we can coordinate that online, but that's definitely a good idea. I love unconference topics. Also, the whole idea of unconferences is also to kind of keep things sometimes even shorter and get more people in to discuss things. So things like that. Ignite is a type of more unconference method where you get like 5 minutes instead of the typical 20-25 minutes, right? And so that's kind of the word Ignite is geared towards getting more people opportunities to speak in a short amount of time. So
June, here's a question I've kind of missed asking. Actually, I've realized. What about EOS kind of excites you? I mean, what got you into the Ignite conference? What do you kind of foresee?
Yeah. So I'm a kind of an old Steemit, BitShares guy from back in the day. So I just follow Dan Larimer everywhere he goes, right? So it's just incredible technology. I mean, all everything that's been built in the past, and so I was excited. I was doing a lot of Steam was big. I mean, I still have some projects that are that were currently I do some kind of projects, MVP proof of concept type projects still. But anyways, I started with BitShares, and then we got something going on Steam. But EOS is just, to me, like the general purpose platform that can do almost any kind of application you can think of. So not only you can do something similar to BitShares or Steemit, but just anything else. So anyway, so that's what excites me. And of course, the performance is great. The governance is actually very attractive. It's just I think recently, just figuring out the balance with we're so used to immutability in the blockchain space. It's so I think counterintuitive, this whole idea of kind of bringing back in governance, that I do see a potential for that. So it did excite me. Account recovery, being able to, I mean, that's one of the biggest usability issues in the blockchain space. So I think some kind of governance can help with that. So how do we do that is I think the question. But that's I'm all about trying to get this technology mainstream. That's kind of my purpose with everything. And so I look, at all these projects. I think we're getting closer and closer. Steemit, I think, is probably the aside from CryptoKitties, maybe is the most mainstream really application that exists. People don't probably think about that too much, and it's still in the crypto space, people don't recognize it as much, but it is. There's not that many blockchain applications that are actually being used. But I think with EOS, with that progression from blockchains that are being used, I see EOS as just opening the floodgates for all of the applications that people have been trying to build on other platforms, just to really actually just have a chance to succeed. So
June, let's go back a bit. You're based out of San Francisco, right?
Yeah. I'm in the East Bay in Antioch, but just an hour from San Francisco. So that's my primary place for meetings and just engaging in the blockchain community. Yeah, San Francisco is the key.
Okay.
place.
Tell us what it takes to get something mass adopted. Silicon Valley is pretty good at that. So what does it take to get something mass adopted?
Yeah, I mean, everyone's trying to figure that out, I guess. There's different I think ways to think about it. I think with crypto, really the killer app with, I think, crypto is just it's investing so far, right? People want to build their wealth, and I used to kind of dismiss it earlier, but being able to build your wealth, especially in developing nations, they've never had opportunities to do this. It's actually a cool thing, right? It's like you get to invest in all these projects. A lot of them are, you got to be skeptical of, and there's a lot of scams out there. But there are projects that have a lot of potential, and to give anybody around the world that opportunity to invest, whether you call it speculation, I think it's investing for the long term and participating in this new economy. I think that's fantastic. So that would be, to me, that's like a killer app that I've been kind of focusing on more of, like it involves a little bit of the speculation and the desire, but it's actually the good part of it is like it's a desire to get financially independent and build your wealth. So that's one thing. A couple others, social media, just anything that you can do with traditional social media. I think you add an extra layer with blockchain. With Steemit is a good example where you get paid to do things. Yeah. So I think it adds an extra layer of value to the internet and application, so that you can attach to any application that is viral in nature or that has a natural network effect. So those are a couple things. And then I also think, people also mention, hey, can you build an application where it's a new application that doesn't exist, that you can only do on blockchains? And that's another good way to think about it. If you can find something that is perfect, that's outside of what anyone has done before, I think that's also something you can look for to get people, get into the mainstream. So.
Okay, cool. Where can we keep up with you? Like, so Kevin already posted the website. What can we expect leading up to the conference next month? Are you going to announce any speakers or topics or anything like that?
Yeah. We'll try to keep updating the website every day. So please check out eosignite.com. Every few days we'll try to update speakers, get a lot more. We're focusing on getting more dApps now, because we got a lot of block producers and other speakers, but we want to get more dApps, some exposure. So and then just spreading the word. Yeah, just I think that's the key for us, just to get, our goal, maybe 250 to 500 people to show up, and at least in some parts of the live version, and then we'll release it onto YouTube, a couple weeks or a month after. But yeah, just that's kind of the idea. We'll just be working hard to spread the word. So any help, you guys have been fantastic. Thanks so much for giving me this opportunity to just share this conference, and thanks for being a media partner. So
yeah, sounds like if anyone who kind of enjoys these shows and wants a nice 24-hour plus period of it, they can tune in and out, and they can interact more with your platform as well. Sounds like the Ignite conference will be fun. So thank you.
It will be recorded too, so you don't have to, you could be, in your pajamas tuning in, and then just do whatever you need to, like take care of errands, or just, I know a lot of people, it's probably during the workday, but it'll be recorded, so you could actually access it at later points in time. It is fun to interact, right? To actually chat and comment, and maybe even be pulled into the actual conference as a participant. And so yeah, you kind of want to. We'd like to have people that are very active, but other than that, if people have different free time, different parts of the day, and it'll just be 24 hours. Maybe we'll get some night owls watching like things in Asia, or so anyways. But yeah, just again, EOS Ignite, really appreciate it. Anybody who wants to speak at the conference, or be a sponsor, or want to spread the word as a media partner, just please reach out to me. I guess I give you my email too. It's
sure.
Probably the easiest is just info@eosignite.com. So info at eosignite.com.
Cool.
So,
thanks,
nice.
June. It was a pleasure having you on.
Yeah, I really appreciate it, guys. All right. Thanks, care.
June. All right, see ya.
All right. See you guys.
Hey, Kevin, we have a whale in the chat here. His name is the large seafaring mammal. So I went to my mailbox, and I see this package with a whale on it. And I was like, wow, I got a t-shirt. So thanks, Bruce. That was an awesome t-shirt. Good quality. So if you are looking for some crypto t-shirts, check out Bruce and the large seafaring mammal.
Yeah, thank you very much, Bruce. You're awesome. And we had Bruce on, I think it was last week. It must have been last week, right?
Yeah.
Or maybe the week before. These shows, 21 of them. There's just so many packed in here. But anyway, so we had a good time, really, and we've had that question that Bruce is now still asking, and it keeps me wondering too. It's about Dan. Do you know what that question is, Bluejays?
Have you ever seen Dan wear a t-shirt?
Yeah, I've never seen him wear a t-shirt. Yeah.
I think I'm going to make a promise on behalf of Bruce. Bruce, if one of our viewers finds a picture with Dan wearing a t-shirt, not photoshopped, then you can give them a free t-shirt. How about that?
Wow, that's a good offer. Yeah, that's an offer from Bluejays on behalf of Bruce. Yeah, and then also, if anyone finds Dan wearing a T-shirt, Blue Jays will give you 1,000,000 EOS. It'll be
No,
great.
no. Hey, look, he
No,
agreed. He agreed. He said done
I
deal.
think it'd be fun. That's a good idea.
Yeah.
Start scouring those pictures and videos, folks.
Yeah.
Hey, Isaac, how are you? Welcome.
Hello, Isaac.
Hey, not too bad. Thanks, guys. How
Yeah,
are you?
Doing well. Yeah, we'd love to learn more about your project. This is all new to us, and we should go back to the basics here. Actually, let's learn a little bit more about you too.
Yep.
Kind of why you got into this project, what's your background, and yeah, I'd love to hear more about you.
Yeah, sure. So, my background is I'm a PhD level RF and microwave electrical engineer. Developed chipless RFID technologies back when I was at the university, and then after that went down an entrepreneurial path because I've got a passion to create things that people will actually use and that you can see making a difference out there in the world. I had the main reason that I think started this project. I had an experience last year in about July where I went to a meetup in a place called the Peter Mac Cancer Centre down here in Melbourne, Australia. And it was the first time in my life that I saw real facts and figures around why medicinal cannabis is effective, how it's effective, what it's effective for. And, you know, as someone that came from a technical background, I heard of the benefits of cannabis, but I'd never really seen someone present the information in a way that was irrefutable and just made a hell of a lot of sense. It was also at that conference where I was inspired by the case of a kid. I'll never forget him. His name was Ben Oakley, and he was suffering horribly with a rare condition under the current regime that the government in Australia had instituted. He was never going to be able to access medicinal cannabis. And he was having 200 seizures a day, you know, pain levels 14 out of 10. And none of the medicine they give him does anything. Once he gets onto medicinal cannabis, pain level didn't go above a 7, doesn't have any more seizures. And then for that guy, cannabis was a miracle. You know, and it, you know, when we hear things like that, we sort of tend to automatically dismiss them as, you know, well, that's nonsense and hyperbole that, you know, people have just run off with. But let me tell you, when you see something like that live, you can't deny it. And so ever since then, we've sort of gone on this journey to think about, look, you know, what could I do to help this industry and the people that need to be able to access this medicine to help them to get it. And that's kind of where the whole PARSL story started.
So the company is called PARSL.co.
Yeah.
Okay. Is that also that's also the website, and your website is up?
That's right.
Okay, great. Just making sure.
Making the cannabis, this is basically a supply chain for the cannabis industry, right? Just keep things moving more efficiently, more smoothly. It's neat. I like hearing your story about the background in terms of why you're passionate about this. We forget to ask that sometimes, but it's important to hear that behind someone, why they're getting into a project on blockchain. And so what do you foresee? I mean, what's the solution looking like?
So, I mean, look, you know, if with my background dealing with, you know, chips and, you know, IoT and things like that, product tracking is something that I could achieve without the blockchain. So to be able to do that, you know, it's kind of my bread and butter and all the rest of it. Now, when I talk about product tracking, everybody understands what I'm talking about, why we're doing it, what the results and data sets are going to be like. Part of the paradigm shift that we're trying to introduce here with PARSL is to say that the movement of product is just a different aspect of a handover between two people compared with the movement of the currency. So in the same way that Einstein said that matter and energy are just two different aspects of the same thing, we're saying that the product movement, currency movement are just two different aspects of the same thing. So by us introducing a dedicated token that's used exclusively for transactions within the network, in the same way that I do product tracking end-to-end, we can now do financial tracking end-to-end within the ecosystem. And I think it just goes without saying why that would be extraordinarily helpful in the cannabis industry, where the compliance reporting requirements that those businesses have to face are really difficult for anyone to deal with, let alone people that are potentially coming from a black market background and considering coming over into the legal sector. I mean, part of the whole great thing that's going on here is that we're turning criminals into tax-paying businessmen. And we've got to ease that transition so that we get there as quickly as possible.
Interesting. So what problems need to be solved? Why does it need a blockchain?
So we use the blockchain for a number of different aspects of our system and we use it for different reasons in different places. So the fundamental property of the blockchain that we're utilizing is its immutability. So we put product provenance on the blockchain, no one can falsify that. We put financial provenance on the blockchain, no one can falsify that. But then we go above and beyond that. So I'm not sure if you're aware, but every single bit of cannabis that's in the legal market has to have been lab tested.
Okay.
So what we do as well is we take those lab test results and we put them on the blockchain as well so that that is immutable. And if the product that we've tagged with our smart packaging so that we can identify the original lab test result, so we can actually test that same product sometime later and check that it's still the same thing.
Is there a problem in the current industry where data is being changed?
Well, they wouldn't know.
That's a good point.
Because the data is not up there in a transparent fashion for everybody to verify. So I would challenge them to say that they can definitively say that there is no falsifying of data going on. And I mean, listen, I think even when we talk about things like, clinical trials to determine the effectiveness of cannabis for a particular condition and for particular people, I think there's a sense that's come in the community that there are sometimes corporate interests that are overwhelming true scientific endeavors to influence some of those results potentially. But by using something like blockchain, which is immutable and can be shared in real time, you can get past a lot of that just using transparency.
I see.
Nice. And so you talked about the Ithaca ecosystem as well with the Pro. Can you talk about that a little bit, what the ecosystem might look like?
Yeah, sure. So, and just as a bit of a preface to that, PARSL is a supply chain technology company, and the Ithaca ecosystem is the deployment of PARSL technology for the cannabis sector. So within all of that, we're tracking product end to end, where we're really trying to facilitate international trade because in cannabis, it's relevant. You need to do strain matching to maximize the effectiveness of a medicine for patients. So you've got to match a strain to a condition to a person. Now, let's say right now there's a lot of difficulty if you're a person with a particular condition for them to tell you which strain exactly you need. So strain definition and lab testing to determine the chemical constituents of each of those products, that's something that we're trying to help standardize to facilitate international trade. Governments around the world are trying to figure this all out, but we feel that they're not talking to each other enough so that they will figure it out each in their own way. But at the end of the day, so you can't grow every type of cannabis in every place in every way. So you need a global supply chain to make sure patients are getting the best medicine.
Mm-hmm. Interesting problem you're trying to solve here, especially with many places legalizing cannabis now. I think Canada is about to, and many other places have done recently. So,
look, absolutely, and I think there's a lot of good intentions in the way people are going about dealing with the cannabis industry, but I think that there's a lot of fear because people don't really understand how they could possibly go about regulating such an industry or go about ensuring that minors don't have access to cannabis or things like that. So what we're trying to do here in PARSL is provide them technological tools to be able to achieve what they want without inhibiting the industry. So, we even provide things that, we've got very high level ID information inside our ecosystem, and we can use that same level of ID verification to restrict marketing content so that we can allow governments to say that no minors were ever shown cannabis-related advertising. Meanwhile, the people that did see it really wanted to see it and saw it at the right time.
Interesting.
Nice. So there is a bit of a business model behind it and everything as well. And are you looking to expand beyond cannabis as well? Is that kind of the first step to move on to prescription drugs and other industries?
Look, we'd love to be a part of the reason that the opioid epidemic was minimized or totally removed. But the other thing that we're very cognizant of here is that, for us to be successful, we need to be focused. So yes, this is a general supply chain technology. It's useful in any supply chain, but in each different industry, there are different levels of value that you're providing. So we believe in the cannabis industry, and we believe in helping those people because we're going to solve a number of problems at once. And I mean, listen, we love the idea that, you know, finally a blockchain platform was created that is going to be able to support what we need to do. I mean, it was a big challenge for us for a long time. But, you know, luckily EOS has gone live. Its transactional capacity is going to be sufficient to support the enterprise scale application we want to deploy. And at the same time, we can really minimize costs for our users through the staking mechanism that is used to pay for transaction fees. And then similarly, we're able to then design the system so that even people in the cannabis industry that don't own a computer, don't own a phone, they don't want to touch or use technology, when you deploy something like this, you've got to make sure that those people aren't excluded. So we try to make sure that, you know, homeless people that need their medicine, who don't own phones, don't have an address, and are going to have all sorts of issues using a computer-based system, we just provide them a smart card, and they can go into dispensaries and do what they need to do. They can have people donate to them in a safe and effective way. We've really tried to just do this in a way that is sensible so that nobody misses out on the benefits that are coming out of it.
Very interesting. Where can we keep up with what you have going on? I mean, I think it's a very interesting project, and others may want to find out more about it.
So look, I would direct people to keep an eye on the website, where we'll have a lot of announcements coming out in fairly short order. Similarly, our Telegram channel and our other social channels, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, are all starting to heat up at the moment. So I'd say that's probably the best place for people to stay informed.
What's your Twitter handle?
I believe it's Dr. NFC.
Okay.
I would have to check it.
Oh yeah, I saw it on your website too. PARSL, you have one called PARSL Co. It's brand new though, still up and coming. But yeah, and also Isaac, a question we have to ask, of course, airdrop. Are you guys airdropping, or is there some kind of plan for that? Everybody loves knowing about that.
So we are planning to do an airdrop, and we'll be announcing. We'll be making a few announcements relevant to that over the next week or two, and I think hopefully that'll be well appreciated by the EOS community, which I just love that there's this system where when there are problems, we go to the community for answers and we actually get them. And okay, you know, there are bumps in the road as we've been going there, and so much fun that I don't even want to talk about it, but it's a really cool thing to be a part of.
Agreed. Yeah, that's the interesting thing. With all the interests aligned, obviously, this is the first time we've seen a DAC in action. Maybe not the first time, but one of the more on a larger scale, right? We should say. And we have a lot of very smart, passionate people working on these projects and issues. Do you want to dive into EOS just a little bit too? Because we always love asking what got you into EOS, why you're looking to build on EOS. You know, what is it about EOS that sort of excites you?
Well, look, I mean, I think, as I mentioned, its ability to scale.
Yeah.
Because we're very cognizant that, you know, the user experience that, you know, users and businesses have when they're trying to use our system will, in a large part, determine the success and failure of what we're trying to do, regardless if the technology underneath it is good or not. So there's that aspect. We really love the way that we're able to work our business model so that, you know, that same grower up in Humboldt County that, you know, isn't connected to the grid and all of the rest of it, but he's still able to participate in this system because of EOS's business model. So that, you know, when they use PARSL, they buy smart packaging, they pay a subscription fee, and that's all they've got to do. And then we ourselves do the translation into subscription fees and all the rest of it underneath all of that, because they don't want to know. So why should they?
Yeah.
You know, we're all about trying to make people comfortable.
Do you have any partners? Are you self-funded? What's that situation like? And how is it on the front of being able to get RAM and all the resources that you need to be able to deploy an EOS?
So yes, the RAM issue was a surprise to us, and is something that we're in the process of dealing with. What I would say in regards to the other parts of your question is please stay tuned to our announcements over the next couple of weeks, and we should have some interesting things popping up there.
You sure? I have a breaking news button right over here I could push, you know.
Yeah,
Okay.
we were always open for the breaking news, but yeah. So there's going to be a lot of different. There's the air grab model now that we've seen, where users can stake a small part of their own RAM, or we can use a part of their own RAM to gather the tokens, basically to grab them, as opposed to just having them automatically be dropped in their wallets, that kind of thing. So I suspect we'll be seeing a lot of different styles, different new models we don't even know yet. So it should be interesting hearing from you guys, seeing what you guys are up to, what you guys will have.
Yeah, look, we do have a little bit of an interesting twist on how we're planning to do our airdrop, but I'll let that all come out in the fruition of time.
Cool. All right, that sounds good. All right, yeah. Is there anything else we should know about PARSL that we haven't covered?
No, look, I think that's been pretty good. It's been a pleasure to be on the show. Thank you very much, and yeah.
Thank you, Dr. Isaac. Yeah, it's been great talking to you. It's been great having you on. I'm looking forward to more from your project.
Thanks, Dr. Isaac. It was really good having you on, and it's a pleasure.
Thanks, boys. Take care.
All right, see you
Later.
Yeah, smart. I mean, we've talked about that before, how you should always, I mean, you're trying to break into an industry, right? You don't try to just take over the whole thing all at once. You start with a niche, you know, you sort of go that route, just like he's doing, just like PARSL's doing. And you build a solution for that niche, and if it works, maybe you can expand wider.
Yeah.
But at least he has a good narrow focus, and it sounds like he's passionate too. It's an interesting backstory.
Yeah, and when you think about it, Kevin, like logistics and supplier management, they have with a lot of regulations coming on, there is a big use case for blockchain. For example, one of the projects before that I was following was Modem, and they were basically looking at the transport of medicine or other kinds of things that needed to be refrigerated in a vehicle. So the government required them to keep the medicine at a certain temperature while it was in transit. So how do you prove that? So they were working on having a sensor on that particular package and it uploading to a blockchain and then recording the data there. So there are real use cases for supplier logistics and logistics management.
I agree. Yeah, there's another project called Wabi that I followed for a little while too, and that was born out of a need or a necessity for basically there was a Chinese infant baby food formula scandal that happened back, I would say 5-6 years ago. A lot of babies were poisoned because milk was contaminated, and if there had been a good supply chain solution in place that was transparent and open, everybody could have kept track of the milk shipments more easily and could have avoided a big part of this problem.
Okay.
Is what I understood from their solution. Now, they had actually built a centralized solution that a lot of folks were using, where able to slap this sticker on. It was an RFID sticker, and then, of course, they're then putting that onto the blockchain. So I haven't kept up with that project. They should probably move to EOS if they want to be successful, right? But
right.
Yeah, so
same with Modem. You guys should probably come over here.
Right. Hey guys, if you're watching, Wabi and Modem.
Yeah.
So obviously, yeah, supply chain I think is huge, and I think it's awesome that they're starting in a small niche PARSL, and especially with the background he has in RFID chips as well.
Right. So, that's a good one. RFID chips. I bet that'd be able to communicate the upload and the payload back to the blockchain. Yeah, that sounds about right.
Yeah.
Kevin, do we have time? Did you hear from Thomas, or should we just go into the news?
So Thomas says he is definitely awake and ready. He just sent this over, and he said he will try. It depends on the internet connectivity where he is. So we'll find out. Let's go ahead and start some news. We can see if he pops in here. Maybe he's combing his hair right now. We don't know, but he didn't say that. What's the latest news you saw, Blue Jays, other than the transactions per second? What else has been happening this week?
Right. So there has been an idea being shot out there by many people, most notably Dan, regarding the opportunity for EOS holders to gain income from RAM by staking. So the way this works is basically the software will be changed so that, and this is not official. It's getting there. I don't know if it is official, but this idea has been gaining steam. So all of the EOS in the RAM trading fee account. So there's an account that collects 0.5% of all transaction fees when you buy and sell RAM. So if you buy 1,000 EOS worth of RAM, you're going to pay 0.5%. And those fees, they add up and they get collected into the EOSIO.RAM fee account. So what we're talking about here is divvying up the fees to people who have staked their EOS. And you stake it for many reasons. You stake it for CPU, you stake it for bandwidth, and you also stake it for voting. So that would be distributed among the people who have staked their EOS, which obviously puts an opportunity cost for speculating in the RAM market.
Yeah, this is something we talked about this, I think, last week in terms of the amount of money that's actually sitting in that RAM account right now, EOSIO.RAM. It's like $10 million plus. It's probably about 15 million now, maybe, depending on whatever the case is. But now, instead of burning those, like you said, they'll possibly be redistributed to the token holders who are staking. Now, and also Dan said something else interesting this week. And of course, when Dan says something, it's pretty important because, as we know, they're the largest whale in the ecosystem. And obviously, Dan still holds a lot of sway because he's the architect here, the architect, if you will. And so,
can you imagine Dan sitting at the end of the, like in the movie The Matrix, the last one?
He actually, a while back, he linked a picture of the architect in the Matrix. Someone was making, giving him a hard time. And I think he did that.
Did he have all 100 screens?
Yeah. He's got like one piece of code up here. There's the RAM solution up here. There's the governance solution over here on each of his screens. And there's Telegram over here.
And then one has this like cat on it.
Yeah. Right. He's got a cat on the shoulder as well.
Yeah.
I can just see it. Yeah. And so he put up something very interesting this past week where he was talking about before the worker proposal system comes out, he said this in the worker proposal Telegram channel, he would like to see at least 51% of voters voting, or 51% of token holders voting, which is an extraordinary number. Right. I think we're around 30% right now. Of course, we needed 15% just to launch the chain. He was saying he's dissatisfied with the current voting, the way the voting is working. You have these whales kind of dominating it. You have exchanges, so on and so forth. He did not elaborate as to what he doesn't like about it, but he wants to see more voters in there because it sort of shakes things up. It takes away some of the power from the largest whales, right? Including even Block 1. So the 51% number, some folks were speculating that is not even possible, period. And they were saying maybe he just doesn't. Go ahead.
And are you saying, Kevin, that the incentive to get some of these RAM fees in EOS would be a good incentive for some of the smaller token holders? Like, let's say you have, 50 EOS or 20 EOS or 100 EOS, and all of a sudden you're staking and you're making 1 EOS a month or something like that, 1%. Maybe that's incentive enough for you to go and vote, right?
Why not? Why not, right? I mean, who doesn't want to make a little extra money? And I would think, so and the other question too is, would that encourage informed voting? The people who are staking to get their 1% EOS kickback from the RAM fees, would they go ahead and do all their necessary research that they should be doing to vote? Or would they just send it out to a proxy, and maybe the proxy only gives you 95% of your fees and they keep 5% for their work? Who knows? We haven't seen those business models yet.
Right. Good point.
Yeah, the question is informed voting. That's what we really want to see, obviously. So there's a lot to be figured out. But however, I think it's a great idea personally in terms of allocating the RAM to the people who are adding some value to the ecosystem by staking their tokens.
Yeah.
And that doesn't necessarily mean voting. It actually, it doesn't matter whether you're staking your tokens for CPU or bandwidth. And even if you're not voting, you'd still receive those dividends. So dApp developers would too.
And of course, this is not the only solution for the RAM fee account holdings. They could burn it, which is in essence pretty much airdropping on all the token holders by giving them back a deflationary system, meaning your tokens that you already currently have are going to be worth more. So that's another solution. Maybe it doesn't help the speculation part, where you actually have an opportunity cost to speculating in RAM, but it is also a good solution as well. Similarly to the funds that are being held in the EOS saving account as well too, that are being saved up for the worker proposal system that will be coming up very soon. Anyhow, Kevin, moving on to the next news. I got something here. Atmos is coming to EOS. Do you know much about the Atmos project? it seems like another one of those projects that are coming over to EOS.
Yeah, Atmos, I think the group behind Novosphere, they started that forum. They basically had the front end of the forum built on the forum contract that I believe Alex with EOS Canada actually threw together along with Dan. So basically the question has been for block producers, how do they arrive at decisions, right? Ideally, they're voting on chain for decisions. And so there needs to be some kind of tool to do that, is what Dan was saying about a month ago on one of those block producer calls. And so they threw the contract together, and now Novosphere has taken that and they've made sort of a Reddit-style forum built on this contract. So every time everything's being posted to on this forum, it looks like a regular front-end website. However, on the back end, it's actually posting onto the EOS blockchain.
Oh, wow.
Of course, it runs pretty quickly, too. You can't even tell. It's very low latency, as you'd expect from half-second block times.
Have you used it?
I've not used it. I browsed it a few times. But this is kind of what we expected would come eventually.
Yeah, this is great. I'm going to check it out right after this. The EOS forum, is it?
Yeah.
There's rumors that also they're going to use the EOS forum to do the referendum. At least a form of it, basically having us give our vote on this particular software. So I think this EOS.forum code is being reutilized to take the referendum, which we're going to need for the worker proposal system, among many other decisions that everybody as a token holder needs to vote on.
Good point. Yeah, it's true. I mean, and so I guess it would take out some of the difficulty perhaps for folks who don't want to try and use Kleos kind of thing.
Right.
We'll see. Yeah, this is what's been needed. Obviously, we need some kind of way to tabulate sentiment from voters, token holders, everybody else in the ecosystem. This has been a long time coming. So it's eos-forum.org. We'll put the link in the chat too, guys, so you guys can check it out. But that's probably the most involved, I would say probably the most formed forum or type of communication tool on EOS so far that we've seen. And also we should talk about Bluejays. Let's see, going back. So we should talk about Chains as well. That exchange, how do you pronounce that? Chance?
I say Chains. Like a chain.
Chains.
Yeah.
I think they're based out of China, but they actually formed a partnership with Koreos as well.
There you go.
Koreos based in Korea. That's the neutral community group out in South Korea.
Yeah.
Started by Devin Lee, our old buddy. So
Devin making big moves.
Big moves. I'm excited for them. And so they didn't really specify what will be happening, but Koreos is probably helping Chains get more involved in the community. And a lot of folks have appreciated Chains for allowing people to trade these airdropped tokens and buy more if they wish or sell them, whatever the case may be.
Yep.
You have an account on there now, Bluejays?
I do. Yeah, I logged on to Chains, and I did the KYC. So, yeah, it's quite extensive.
Yeah, I've heard, but if you want to be able to get more involved with those EOS tokens, that's probably one of the best ways to move them around. But we'll see what happens with those decentralized exchanges too.
Yeah.
Thomas, by the way, Thomas confirmed he'll be on in about 4 or 5 minutes from now, maybe less, probably less.
Okay.
He is going to make an appearance. He didn't specify what he was going to go do, but yeah, like I said, probably brushing the hair.
He's getting the hair done.
He always looks well put together. He doesn't just show up here.
So, story for our viewers. I think Kevin and we met Thomas back in January in Blacksburg for the first time. And Thomas was a different guy back then. I mean, he had a trench coat and a beret, I think, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Oh, here he comes.
Okay. We won't mention the aforementioned trench coat.
Yeah, January was snowing, and it was pretty cold. And so he showed up with his long, dark trench coat on. And the very first thing Bluejays ever said to him, he's like, "Hey, you look like Neo."
I remember that.
It's clearly all you think about is the Matrix.
Yeah, clearly.
Yeah.
That's one of my
favorite
shows.
Last time anybody ever took me for Neo. Thank you.
Yeah. We didn't see you dodge any bullets. You just looked good, though.
Yeah.
Not literal ones.
Okay.
Oh, that's good.
That's right.
I see you have your Meet.1 pin on. Is that right, on your label? Very nice.
Isn't it nice?
Yeah.
It looks good. Yeah.
It's good. It's enamel. It's very high quality.
So Thomas, how's it going out in Asia?
Wow. I filled my phone with photos. I got the little pop-up saying storage is full.
Oh, wow.
Wow.
I've met face-to-face a bunch of people, including, I didn't have a chance to talk with them yet. It was just like at dinner last night as everything was wrapping up. The previously elusive ZB Pool.
Oh, yeah.
ZB showed up, introduced himself. We shook hands. He has very little English, so I couldn't discuss that, which I would like to discuss with him about EOS mining. He was very gracious, so I'm going to attempt to be very gracious in contacting him here in the next few days, possibly with an interpreter in hand, to say, so EOS mining is like paying for votes. You realize that that's actually not cool, right?
Yeah.
And because I don't think he realizes that. And BP Cleaner was there.
Oh, cool.
I got to actually, there's a person there who showed up. So I like actual human being.
Yeah.
I now linked on WeChat with them, which I never use WeChat. Now I'm a WeChat person because it's the only social media that's reliable here in China.
Oh.
And really, by the way, digression, super cool. If you meet somebody like, oh, here, let's connect on WeChat. One of you goes to call up my QR code. I'll see if I can make it work. And it creates on the fly a custom
QR code. Yeah.
QR code, 3-dimensional, which I assume changes from time to time. So you couldn't just take a photo of it and use it.
Oh, look at that. You're just going to get an extra 1,000 phone people
maybe.
added. Yeah.
Well, they'll ask. And the other person calls it the scanner, and they take a photo of it, and that lets them send you a request to friend, and it pops up in just a second, and then you can reply or not.
Isn't that something cool about the community, though? You can meet these bad actors in person and meet them.
It's easy to assume negative intention.
Exactly.
Especially when we are completely steeped in a shared understanding of this is the right way to do things, and that over there, that's the wrong way to do things. And they must be bad to do the wrong thing. And I'm starting to suspect that maybe we have not communicated fully and completely the social norms, which we need to. We absolutely need to.
Yeah.
And enforce them. I'm not saying that we should not perform enforcement activity either, but enforcement activity combined with a friendly, hey, I don't know if you realize what you're doing is like about to get you a grievance in arbitrations. That would be really important. So for me, the big news was the EOS Foundation got announced. And it's still very formative phase still. For me, the takeaways were that it's not going to have any power, or at least won't have any positional power. It can't control the ballot box or spend tokens out of the public treasury or pass judgment and rulings and issue orders, or can't do anything like that. What it can do initially is say, hey, we want to be the community's communication focal point, and get some initial funding in and hire some professional full-time translators to start translating things on a daily basis, and start to really improve the quality and quantity of cross-cultural communication across the EOS ecosystem. I also saw, by the way, on the trip, an enormous number of DApp ideas and partially completed DApps that are mind-blowing.
Wow.
I met the guy who says that he's the one who put the transactions per second up to their 3 records, including the recent over 3,000.
The block Twitter guy.
I don't think that was the app, although it might have been that app plus another. I say he claimed.
Okay.
I proof. And he, I got the sense that he would like to push that further. So, that'd be cool.
Oh,
so we'll see. We'll see if anything happens. And so I was talking about takeaways on the EOS Foundation idea. So the initial group, apparently there's several whales and a bunch of early adopters and luminaries, have asked me to be the executive director on an interim basis until the board can go from being appointed to elected, and then the elected board can go and find a full-time permanent replacement. So I'm going to be talking to my boss about that. And if and when the foundation goes from an idea to a funded entity that can actually make a formal written offer, which I can then entertain formally, I have said that as things are going now, I'm probably going to accept.
Oh, good.
Cool.
And won't that be interesting?
How does the forum get funded? Is it the work of proposal?
So the foundation initially is going to have to be funded by people who believe in the idea.
Okay.
And I think it's going to have to turn into some kind of a referendum to say, vote yes or no. We, the token holders, wish to make this EOS Foundation entity our official talking shop. I probably won't be that language, but something like that. And then start setting up the rule set for how it'll operate. How many directors on the board? How often will they? Gosh, I don't know what all. It's tremendously complicated, and I was out till 2 a.m. So,
wow.
Let's just say that it's still in its infancy as an idea, like so much in the EOS chain, and we're looking forward to seeing it get more detail, more clarity, and more concreteness as we get closer and closer to having a referendum where we can put it in front of token holders and see if they like the idea.
I saw one picture with Brock Pierce with the EOS Foundation. So any other supporters that we can talk about?
He didn't announce any officially.
Okay.
Thank you, Janglese. It's that Neo on screen. That's it just caught my eye. It was like 5 minutes ago or something. Okay, I have now been mistaken for Neo twice.
You should get the sunglasses to go with it. Just go with it.
I will get the sunglasses. I will look ludicrous with those sunglasses. Did not bring the black leather trench coat because it is 89 to 90 some degrees, and indoors it's like 80.
But you were promising that you're not retiring it, right? You're gonna wear that again.
I love that. I've owned that for over 25 years. I love that. I will wear it until it is in tatters, provided it's appropriate. I don't wear it to inappropriate places, like the sauna.
Okay.
Thomas, I heard a couple things that were interesting. You just mentioned, so Strong Block is, do you have a boss? I thought you didn't have a boss anymore. I thought you were your own.
Let's see, I have a business card for Strong Block. I want to flash the business card. Just a second. Let me get a business card.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar, Thomas, of course, left Block One. He's been with this entity called strongblock.io, which we have not even heard much about it either. So Thomas is about to do some breaking news with us here.
Oh, yeah. Where's the button?
Strong Block.
More like breaking non-news. So
breaking. Oh, well, that was very informative. Strong Block. Thomas Cox.
So I have a title and a paycheck, and we have a stealth startup that is active in the EOS ecosystem. And that's all I'm allowed to say.
Okay.
And that's actually most of what I know. It's very early, very, very early. And I do ever so much look forward to being able to say more.
Cool.
The other thing too, Thomas, we should go back and start with Korea. I mean, you guys had a couple conferences there, and now you're in Shanghai, I believe. What's been going on? Can you just give us the recap?
Yeah, so we had a day of scheduled events in Seoul, and that was on the, I want to say 20th. The 19th, we had a lovely dinner, met a lot of great people, had some social time, took a bunch of photos. The 20th was a scheduled day, including meeting a bunch of the block producers and giving them each a chance to say, hey, here's what makes us unique, we think, because I can't keep them straight. And that was actually very nice to know, oh, you think what makes you important is this DApp you've been releasing on a weekly basis that I've never heard of. Hang on, let me write that down. And really good policy conversations on governance, on ECAF, on just internal rule sets for how we want to get along and work with one another. How do we make the platform more successful? The second day was an unconference. And a lot of folks don't know what an unconference is. Maybe you do.
You've told
We
us
got the
about
general gist of it from last time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's simply, we start, the opening is to introduce ourselves to each other and say, what would you like to talk about? In a rather structured way with dot voting and putting things up on flip chart pads. And then we dynamically create an agenda. We count the number of people, divide by 12. That's how many breakout rooms you need roughly. And then you say, okay, well, the top 15, let's say that there's 5 breakout rooms and you got 3 time periods. 15, right? Okay, so the top 15 topics are based on the number of votes that they got during the topic selection phase. And you just throw them up on a wall and say, okay, breakout room 1 through 5, session 1 is the top row. Go look at the row and say, where would you like to go and have a conversation? And so you have no agenda until you get there other than to know it's going to be about EOS. And then the rule is you go to your breakout, you have to come out of the breakout with a single sheet of flip chart paper with whatever your conclusions are or your lack of conclusion or your, okay, the unresolved fight is between these 2 positions and here's the best argument on both sides. Something. But take your 45 minutes and boil it down to 2 minutes of report out. And we just do that 3 cycles for, in our case, 7 breakout rooms because there were almost 100 people there.
Okay.
Wow.
And I've led these and been at them many times. I love them. They are always, you always have the conversations you need to have. We had a couple of blank spaces on the agenda that got filled partway through the day. We had an ECAF session that was just so wonderfully contentious. I mean, people were passionate. That was awesome. And we serviced a bunch of great stuff, and those 2 report outs were captured on video.
So was ECAF the top topic?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, Constitution itself was a topic. I was hoping initially that the entire unconference would be just about the Constitution, and each breakout would be about some different article of the Constitution, and we'd come out with like a written draft. That'd be so cool. Nothing sort of happened.
You were dreaming about that, right?
I was, well, if it had been a bunch of me there, then that's what we would have done. But unconferences are built for the people who actually show up.
Yeah.
So they created the agenda that they wanted, and they participated in that agenda and loved it. It was funny to see that in 2 or 3, I can't remember what the topics were, but something got a bunch of dots for votes. So we put it in a room, and then nobody showed because other things were more interesting or something.
Wow.
And in one case, one of them was like the RAM conversation, a special breakout just on the RAM issue. And like 2 guys showed up and they just didn't want to talk to each other. That wasn't enough for them. So they went. And it turns out at the end of the day, RAM had been discussed very detailed in other conversations. So we did not talk about it. We just didn't talk about it there then. But the rule is whoever shows up are the right people and whatever happens is the right thing to have happen. You just assume it. And folks, at the end of the day, were just delighted because they had a chance to talk about what mattered to them. And there were no sessions that nobody wanted because they just didn't show up and they didn't happen. So that was tremendously cool.
Any notable developments in those areas?
I don't trust my memory on that. I know that a lot of people took away next steps for what they wanted to do. And a lot of those breakout sessions turned into like improvisational work groups and I did say, okay, so at the end of the day, who's going to do what by when? And there were some commitments made. And I'm not going to track them because they don't report to me. I'm not their project manager, and I'm not going to take on the burden. They know who they are and they know what they promised, and there are videos. And if it matters to them, they'll do it.
Yeah.
We know that. The one thing we don't have in EOS is a shortage of people willing to do stuff, which is tremendous.
Yeah.
So that was the second day in Seoul. And then Sunday was supposed to be a travel day, and it turned into a travel nightmare day because of the typhoon that came through.
Oh, wow.
Okay. Paper with, the forecast was for the typhoon. Someone showed me Saturday afternoon this forecast, this animated, like here it is, and by noon tomorrow it will be centered over Shanghai.
Oh, wow.
We're like, okay. I wonder where I'm going to be on Monday, because I was planning to fly on Sunday to Shanghai to be at a thing on Monday. Maybe it'll be very quiet on Monday and we'll have a very small meeting. I don't know. So my flight got delayed 5.5 hours. And big thanks to Yves LaRose of EOS Nation, who took pity on me and used his very last KAL lounge pass to get me out of passenger purgatory and over into the KAL. Oh my gosh. That's like, I want to go just take trips so I can hang out in the KAL now.
Oh, yeah.
Oh, wow.
They have showers.
Oh,
I went to say, how do I use the shower? They handed me this packet of a towel and a big towel and a small towel and a bunch of toiletries all wrapped up in plastic, very beautifully presented. Everything is beautifully presented in Seoul. Oh my gosh.
Oh, yeah.
Handed that to me, and I went into this it was small, but it was beautifully appointed shower, and freshened myself up so that when I landed and was whisked off to dinner, a late dinner in Shanghai, I did not look like a bedraggled rat. I looked like Neo. No, I didn't look like Neo. But I looked clean and freshly shaved.
You felt like me.
Darn it.
Yeah.
I felt okay. I felt good. Maybe not quite that badass, but I felt like I would not be ashamed to show up at a dinner to talk. I can't remember. We talked mostly about 8-year-old Scotch, I think.
Oh.
That's the other thing is business in Asia is done over very expensive dinners. And I keep waiting for somebody to tap me on the shoulder and say, Mr. Cox, you're actually not supposed to be here. Because I have no idea why people keep wanting to say, here, come here, let me buy you food. Here, let me, take you to this gorgeous restaurant and we'll sit around and talk about our families and life and the history of EOS. And
you're an EOS celebrity, Thomas.
Is this what celebrity life is like?
Yes.
Okay. It's flipping cool.
Yeah.
I'm going to ride this horse while it lasts. That's all I could say. I'm just going to enjoy
just go
it.
with it. Put on your Neo coat and
Can't
sunglasses.
take it seriously. It's clearly not based on merit because where was this for the last 50 years of my life? Yeah. We'll see if it but the important thing I think is to show up and do the work and do what you're called to do. I did a great talk. I felt it was a great talk right after Brock Pierce talked about the EOS Foundation and gave a briefing on the Constitution, which was very similar to but different from the talk I gave on governance the 2 days earlier on Friday. And to me, it's like the same basic stuff and the same basic questions. And I don't think like I'm saying anything new, but apparently I am to a lot of people because they say, I didn't realize, and that was amazing. And it was so great to hear you say these things. So people need to have other people show up live in person and talk to them about stuff again and again. Humans are wired, apparently. So that's what I've been doing, is talking about governance. And whatever the community decides, that's what we're going to do. And I want the community to decide with our eyes open and make informed choices. And I think we're on track to do that.
Good.
I'm so waiting for the referendum to happen so we can have a little more closure on what we all want as policy. Is it the interim constitution? Is it Dan's version 2 that he wrote in an afternoon? Is it this hypothetical community constitution that I've made very little progress on, sadly? Are we going to be able to use the EOS Foundation, as I hope we will be able to, as a focal point to orchestrate the conversation and have the video meetings and have the breakout sessions and have the sequence of forum posts that are translated into multiple languages that we need to have to allow the community to have a robust conversation on a version 3 constitution draft that could be put up in a referendum. Gosh, I hope so. I would love that. I plan to do everything in my power to make that happen. But there's a lot that has to happen that it's beyond my power, so we'll see.
And Thomas, can you give us some snapshots, some mental snapshot takeaways, moments that you really, really enjoyed, just either having dinner, conversations that turned out really well? Give us some tidbits.
It was last night. We were like, it's 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, I'm going back to the hotel now. We'd like to go back to the hotel. And there was this spontaneous round of guys hugging each other, these various block producers, and like, I'm leaving in the morning. I don't want to go back to the hotel. And like 2 people got in the cab with me to go back to where we're staying, and then like left back out again because they weren't done hanging out with their friends. It's a real sense of camaraderie. And these are block producers that compete for votes and are competing for money and are actually technically engaged in a zero-sum game. But there's so much scope for cooperation around problem solving and challenges. Somebody once explained to me that the reason 2 senators from a state in the United States, because we have 2 senators per state in the United States, is non-Americans and maybe even a lot of Americans may not know. And they can be from totally different, the opposite political parties, and they can cooperate a great deal often. And that is often a subject of confusion to onlookers. And somebody analyzing that said, actually, there's a good reason for that. Neither of them can hold both seats. And so as long as the other seat is held by the other person, there's a lot of, useful, we can both represent the same state. We don't have to agree on everything, but what we do agree, we should really, work on that agreement and make things happen for our state because we both look better that way. Because they each want to, get reelected and do what's right from their own perspective. And I think most people agree with most other people most of the time. We just don't talk about those things because we agree. We'd much rather talk about the things we disagree on. Because that's how we work, I guess. And so this scope I just described for cooperation is very evident in the block producers. People who aren't even in the money except for votes, they're like, 30th, 40th place, are finding the money to show up at these things and paying staff to work on these problems because of their love of the ecosystem and their love of the potential of this token and this mainnet and the larger, software. Passionate conversation on, is it okay for block producers on the mainnet to also produce blocks for some parallel forked off, Ono or Telos or any of those? And I keep saying, of course they should. I want block producers who are really good. You get really good by doing it a lot. Plus, you'd have a second income stream because they'd have to pay you to make the blocks, and a bigger income stream would make you more stable and robust over time. And then if you fall out of the money on one chain, you've got the other one to support you. And I want you in this project, not some other one, right? Yeah. The EOS experiment isn't just the mainnet. It's all of it. Yeah. And, the dApps are going to be compatible if the software is the same. So how wonderful is that? Yeah.
I guess I can see some token holders not liking that because
I would love to understand why. I don't understand why anybody would not be perfectly fine. I mean, maybe there's a good case to be made for it. I haven't heard the case yet. Look forward to hearing it.
Yeah.
I think you're referring to the case of Telos, for example. Capping the whales at 40,000 tokens, you wouldn't think the whales would want to see the block producers necessarily produce on that because those whales have taken a haircut on that particular chain. So maybe they wouldn't.
What?
I mean, that's just guessing. I don't.
Look here. I'm going to create a brand new chain and give you brand new tokens on a brand new chain, but not as many as you got on the other one. Like here's a gift, but it's smaller than it might have been because of the rule set and the philosophy we got over here. And I'm mad that my gift wasn't bigger? What kind of a jerk feels it? Come on. They could have given you no tokens, Mr. Whale. They could have not launched a chain at all. Everything people do in this ecosystem makes the ecosystem stronger. Every new experimental chain, every effort at a new dApp, every new way to produce blocks, every proposal for a new constitution, all of it is making us bigger and stronger and more interesting and more vibrant and solving more problems. I can't begin to express how thrilled I am at Ireo. And they posted something just a few days ago explaining in detail how they use a blockchain to control access to sensitive medical information. I can't recap it. I don't understand it that well yet. It was glorious because for the first time I could see, and others reading that, I think it's a Medium post, others will see how you can use a blockchain that's high performance like EOS is to manage access to sensitive data like a medical record, and how that, what the process of that gives control of the data to the owner of the data. Now, we can obviously extend that design pattern for credit history, as well as other forms of medical records, as well as personal credentials and resumes and, you know, professional credentialing and any form of personally identified information that you would like to maybe give access to somebody for your reasons that they would pay you for or otherwise remunerate you for, and they wouldn't be able to keep it. Their access would be for a defined time, and then it goes away. And
which is a big deal for some regulation and compliance issues out there now.
Yeah, it's going to be very GDPR compliant, among other things. Power to the people. This is putting power in the. We are going to dramatically upend the current balance of power that's got Google and Facebook at the top, and the rest of us are just commodities to be sold. That is ending. The sooner the better.
Okay. So you're saying Facebook wasn't at the conference this weekend?
They if they were there, they were in disguise.
Okay.
There were no people in Facebook shirts. No Facebook booth was there. If I were in their shoes, I would be very interested in these developments and trying to get out ahead of it. Because, yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the dApps that you really stood out to you out there? I
wouldn't do them justice, and that would worry me. I would hate to under-explain or mis-explain somebody else's project. So not really. Well, I will mention the subject of at least one that has to do with getting musicians paid.
Interesting.
Helping support musicians and reducing or eliminating, middleman fees and costs and labor. And I'd read somewhere very recently that with these disintermediated platforms, it is possible for a musician to make a good, healthy, middle-class living with just 3,000 passionate fans.
Wow.
Cool.
Which is not large. I mean, that's more than I've got. Okay, fine, but I'm not a musician. But, a really good musician might, over the course of a couple of years of touring or whatever else, part-time, could develop a fan base. And you know how rabid some fans are for niche bands that they just love. There's one that I like. I don't not like them enough to pay them, but I like watching their stuff. Pamplemousse, I think, which is French for grapefruit.
Yep.
And they have a Patreon account, and they do these tours, and very clever and creative and innovative videos that I find delightful. And they're apparently, having a kid and paying the rent and, doing music and videos full time on just their Patreon income. And if you can blockchainify that and take that worldwide, I think we might see a renaissance in the creative arts.
Wow, that's interesting. So anybody could break out a talent that they didn't have, and all they need is 3,000 fans around the globe.
Well, if you have the talent and hone the talent, and you can sufficiently entertain and move and get into the hearts of 3,000 or more people, if that number was correct, I haven't tested it out. Wouldn't that be a lovely universe and you just have to have 3 or 4, different artists that you are deeply moved by, and then they're out there full time making a healthy living, not starving artists, just like thriving artists, in enriching the world with culture.
That's crazy.
Yeah, it's glorious what that is. I'm looking forward to that. I can see living in that world.
Kind of happens right now, even on YouTube as well. People get their subscribers, and
and of course, YouTube is taking what cut of the revenue stream that the YouTubers are. I have nothing against the YouTubers. God bless them for their channels, and I hope they make lots of money and earn lots of money. But it would be even more lovely if we did not have big, fat, centralized gatekeepers, raking all the money off the top. And selling other people. We'll still have middle people. We'll still have, rating services and directories, and token curated lists apparently are a thing. I don't understand token curated lists, but they sound cool. I don't know how on earth they work, but apparently they either they do or they might, where people are somehow incentivized through some form of game theory that's not yet been explained to me to create accurate lists of the best of something, whether it's ICOs or artists or wines or whatever you want to make a list of and rate. And having a rating mechanism that rewards accuracy and honesty is sort of a holy grail of rating systems, because everybody wants to spin up sock puppets and vote for themselves and, you know, get their thousands of fake Twitter followers so they have big numbers after their name.
I didn't hear that token curated list concept before. Where does that come from?
I've heard several podcasts that cover it. One was a dedicated podcast that talked about nothing but the token curated list idea, but apparently it presumed knowledge I didn't have, so I didn't really get it. But if it's a thing, I'm sure it'll keep coming around on the guitar until we figure it out. Yeah. But you know, I think that it sounds like another way to address an underlying problem that we humans have, which is I can't keep track of all this stuff. I would like someone to give me a list of the best of whatever. Yeah. But I want to be able to trust the list and not have it be pay for play, not have it be gamed. With, you know, people setting up sock puppet accounts and voting, giving themselves 5-star reviews they haven't earned.
All right.
So what's the way around that? If the token curated list can do it, I predict we'll see a lot of that.
Thomas, you talked about, you hinted at some kind of transactions per second increase on August 8th. What was that exactly?
That was something I overheard, and then I said, hey, what? And I got a little more detail that at least some people are looking to coordinate. Oops, sorry. Video issue here. You get used to a really good internet, and then you come to China, and everything here is amazing, but your connection to the outside world by the internet is not amazing.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
A lot of sites are flat out blocked. I can't get to my Google Docs a lot of the time. It's like, I live in Google Docs. Sorry. So yeah, there's some talk about people who have a lot of meaningful work, not spam transactions, but real transactions, to coordinate some sort of effort to push for a new TPS record on or around the 8th of August. And if it becomes public, I'm sure I'll hear it from you. We'll see. But I think the idea is that the block producers might need to be coordinated around that, because a lot of them, I think they all have the ability to put a throttle on a per node basis of the maximum transactions they'll allow through. And if they've done that, which they're entitled to do, maybe they would take those off or raise the cap temporarily as we attempt a new land speed record.
Wow. Looking forward for that.
Yeah.
What do you have coming up in the next few days, Thomas? Or before you get back?
Yeah. So today it's currently 7:30 a.m. for me on the 24th.
Sounds right.
Yeah.
Yes. Tuesday the 24th of July, and I have today off.
Cool.
So I might hang up with you and go back to bed, possibly.
Yeah. There you go.
Or something. I have nothing scheduled today, and I fly out tomorrow around noon. So.
Oh, okay. Tour the city, maybe, huh?
I might tour the city. I might get some work done. Hard to say. I'm not going to think that far in advance. I'm just going to let the day unfold.
Nice. Wow.
But I suspect I'll do my best to find some memories of Shanghai to take home with me.
Is everybody mostly?
Sorry?
I said unconference today.
The unconference of one. Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. And most people left already. The rest of the group.
The sense I got was that almost everyone was scheduled to fly out today at various times.
Okay.
You know, early morning, midday, whatever. So, and the weather's cleared up beautifully. So hopefully it'll be all caught up.
Well, Thomas, it was a pleasure having you on. We'll see you back on stateside soon.
You will indeed. Look forward to talking 1 week from today, whatever the heck that is with all the time zone changes.
Cool.
Yeah, that'll be the 30th of July. Yeah.
Okay, I will check the calendar. Thank you very, very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks.
Thank you, Thomas.
Have a nice, safe trip back.
Yeah. Yeah, there you are, Blue Jays. The world is, man, that sounds like it was a lot of fun. The last week or so, they started in South Korea, went to Shanghai, China. A large group of block producers, and Thomas and Brock Pierce was there for all of it, looked like.
Yes.
What was that? What were some of your takeaways? Go ahead. Yeah.
Oh, yeah. No, I mean, the block producers are rolling in block rewards, and they can go and make these trips. It's good. I would like to see more dApps in the ecosystem kind of getting to meet the people of EOS and join the community as well too. So that's something that I'm thinking about as well.
Yeah, they're the ones that actually make this ecosystem worth anything. Hopefully, yeah. I mean, aside from the speculation aspect,
yeah.
So it'll be fun to see those come out, and I think it's going to be very noisy in a way. It's hard for a dApp to kind of gain traction, especially when you have maybe, for example, say there's 20 to 30 coming out per week, and everybody's trying to keep up with what's happening and so on and so forth. It is kind of nice, that foundation. What was that all about? Are you familiar with that concept?
Yeah, so I saw the one screenshot. It sounds like it's going to be like that whole foundation, so it's not a governance thing. It doesn't sound like it's not this is what we're going to do with funds. This is what we're going to do with this. It's not going to hold any functional power. So that part of it, I mean, when you think of a foundation, you think of it having this large budget and it's doing something with that. It sounds like they're more centralizing services that are needed for specifically translation. And I mean, with something like that, we really need, as token holders and everybody, is if we do start funding it, whether it is with private funding, or I mean, with private funding they can do whatever they want, but with the tokens that, for example, if it's in the EOS.savings account and it's funding this initiative, then it's something that we need as token holders to be very careful about how the funds are being spent.
Yeah. I mean, same thing with worker proposals too. When those eventually come out, there needs to be some kind of guidelines to how the funds are spent, what they're going for, what exactly they're purchasing, so on and so forth. Like you said, because it's sounds like it's a private foundation. We don't know the funding model or anything of that like that yet.
I doubt it would be privately funded for long. I mean, maybe to kick it off, but I think they're probably going to go after some funding from on-chain sort of resources.
I saw the word bootstrap in the foundation slide, how to bootstrap this thing. So maybe they are sort of looking to kick it forward and then hopefully, gain funding from there. So yeah, it'd be nice to have a sort of a nice source of information, decentralized. I remember about a week and a half ago or so, someone was complaining about that in chat, and Dan said, hey, it's a decentralized, they're comparing it to Tron, right? Tron has a beautiful website, their Reddit, all this stuff looks great. People know where to go to find all the latest news. They just go to the Tron website. But Dan was saying, it's a decentralized network. EOS, there's no centralized entity that just controls everything and controls the information flow or anything like that. So you have to sort of find it on your own.
And with Tron, is it just one central company that's running it or something like that?
I mean, if it's just one website, it's the Tron website itself. It's kind of like Block One just throwing up the news website and doing everything themselves. And they decided not to do that because it is a community chain. So you don't pick your poison, right? We chose this blockchain because it is a community effort, and if someone does want to jump in and try to help the foundation, they can do that. If they want to help provide information or translation services, they can do that too. So,
what the foundation reminds me of? I don't know if you're old enough to remember this, Kevin. You remember Knight Rider, the show?
No, I never saw Knight Rider.
Okay.
No.
Well, you do know of it, David Hasselhoff and Kit and all that.
Yeah.
Well, there was this organization called the Foundation, and it was like this. Oh, the Foundation! It was like this overarching, powerful foundation. It was interesting. That's what I think of when I hear that word now.
The Foundation.
Yeah.
I thought the Knight Rider was like a black car. Is it a black car?
Yeah. So the Knight Rider, I don't know. Kit was the name of the car. Kit. and that
Kit,
was
okay.
yeah, it could talk. Yeah, so
Yeah, because there was a movie remake that came out, you know, within the last few years. I think might have been Nicolas Cage. I mean, I'm getting way out of my depth here. Yeah. Nicolas Cage always puts out quality stuff. I'm surprised he hasn't won a few Oscars by now. Not Grammys, Oscar. That's our pop culture knowledge, folks. You just learned everything that we know about pop culture.
Yeah, and of course we spoke about Hulk Hogan and Ultimate Warrior last week, so we had to fill it with some other pop culture reference this week.
Yeah, you know, probably my favorite discussion we ever had, Blue Jays. We talked about Dan and his Tesla and Vitalik in the Tesla scooter. And that was probably like a month or 2 months ago. You know, because they go back and forth, and Dan was talking about it was before the launch. Dan was joking about hiring Vitalik. Vitalik, can you get me some coffee? Or some Mountain Dew, brother.
Can you get me some Mountain Dew?
Yeah. No, Vitalik.
Hey, imagine Vitalik like he just likes the total opposite of Mountain Dew, like Dr. Pepper or something.
Oh man, this is one more thing to argue about. I don't agree with your consensus model. I don't agree with your drink choices. Vitalik.
Proof of what? Hell no.
Proof of yes. Get out of here. Well, yeah, it's been a good show, Blue Jays. I guess next week we'll have Thomas back with a few other guests. You know, thanks to Thomas, special thanks. We forgot to say that to him on air, but you know, thanks for waking up early, looking spiffy, putting the pin on the lapel, you know, and then showing up. So yeah,
and subsequently taking it off and going back to bed. So
right. So yeah, thanks again, Thomas. And we'll thoughts of the week, the Blue Jays. Final thoughts of the week.
Thoughts of the week. Transactions per second. Let's see it get broken. There's a lot of tools coming out from block producers that show different things. There's one from EOS Titan that shows like all of the actions that go on, and it ranks it and maps it. So if you guys are interested to seeing what kind of transactions are happening on EOS, that's one that you can check out. A lot of cool tools coming out from block producers that have been developing things. So keep an eye out for those things.
Yeah, and also it looks like the RAM increase is being pushed through right now. The block producers are voting on it, or about to, which would be 1 kilobyte per block increase, which every half second, another kilobyte increase.
Oh, are they voting on something?
Well, it's supposed to be coming up. Okay. And we've seen Dan trying to push the conversation forward. You know, it's kind of been this decision has taken a long time. There's been a lot of models flying around. There's been a lot of conversation and debate. And when Thomas mentioned that the RAM panel in the unconference in Korea did not have any members at it, just 2 members, I was a little surprised to hear that. But maybe people are just tired of talking about it and want to move forward. We know that the RAM is expensive. We know there probably needs to be some kind of increase or other solution possibly, but we'll find out. The increase will be kind of the first step, I guess. And then if something else needs to happen, maybe. But
so yeah, I think there's a feeling there that things are coming to a conclusion in the RAM market. Like they being the community and Block One have isolated a strategy to move forward. Like, this is how we're going to reduce it. This is what we're going to do. And yeah, that news item we talked about earlier with the staking fee seems to be at the core of it.
Yeah,
along Kevin with the incremental increases.
Right. Yeah, how to actually lower the price of the RAM, make it, you know, because right now the RAM usage is like 1%, right? But then the RAM ownership is 80%. Those are just rough numbers, but it's very high. The actual usage is not very high, and yet the RAM is expensive for the dApp developers. And we've heard from a couple of dApp companies now, PARSL being the latest one today, about how the RAM thing threw a big wrench in their plans.
Yeah.
However, you know, the cost to enter on the premier blockchain for EOS as it stands right now is fairly high. So if you do want to be on there with all the big name dApps, I guess you will have to pay the price.
Yeah.
To be able to launch on there. So we'll see what the overall theme is. But yeah, I think thoughts for the week. For me, that's the main thing, is the RAM's going to happen. We were noticing kind of a trickle in the news lately, just kind of waiting for dApps to pick up, waiting to see what Block One announces for their dApps. We know that they have stuff coming. So we'll just see what happens. The conference was kind of fun to follow along with, but now that's over. And probably will be, I would guess, maybe another couple months, or at least until another big one happens with everybody going out to participate.
Yeah.
Probably some brand new important conversation will be in the midst of that then. Hopefully we'll have decided and gone past the referendum and that'll be in place, and so things continue to evolve, Blue Jays.
Yep.
And,
it's a
next thing
constant
you know,
soap opera in EOS.
Yeah, the constant soap opera. That's what we're here to cover.
As the chains turns. As the chain
Yes,
turns.
The only thing, what I have noticed, though, we're lacking in the beautiful women that are typically in a soap opera.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a bunch of dudes in a soap opera. And we're all crying and stuff. You've wronged me. You know?
Yeah.
Whenever they talk about
Victor, you know?
Victoire.
Victoire.
So, yeah, I guess that'll come eventually. Yeah. Anyway, good show, Blue Jays. Guys, if you want to keep up with us, you can do the community updates channel. We have the Telegram chat channel if you want to join in there and hang out with us. And you know where to find us. And we'll be back next week, 6 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, 2200 UTC. Thanks, guys, for coming in. And go EOS.
Thanks, guys. Go EOS. Have a great week.